Welcome back. Since this is the first high-level Sudanese delegation to visit Washington, D.C. in almost 2 decades, are we on the road to witness a breakthrough in the tense relations between the two countries? Joining us again from Washington, D.C., Janet McElligott, a former White House official. From Belgrade, Abdul Wahab Al-Afandi, senior lecturer in politics at the University of Westminster. And here in Doha, Salah Khoujali, a Sudanese political analyst. Mr. Khoujali, a few analysts believe Sudan has actually blossomed economically 10 years on from the sanctions imposed by the United States. They cite that the economy is expected to grow 13% this year. Oil exports generate more than $4 billion per year. Do you agree?
Yes, I do agree. In fact, the petrol in Sudan played a very strong role in the socio-economic development of the country. And if we look into the economy of Sudan, we can see that actually the economy is reflected on the social life. We can see it not only in the capital, but in many regional parts of the country. And we can say that Sudan actually is rich with oil, not only in the south, west, but I came to know from very specialized U.S. engineers that the Sudan is under a complete lack of oil. That is why I believe there is a very important factor to mention here, the future of energy. The future of energy is going to affect the relation of USA and Sudan. That is why I believe the step taken by the Sudanese government is for the benefit of both countries.
You mentioned a lake of oil and the economic benefits. Mr. Al-Afandi in Belgrade, let's talk a little bit about those benefiting from Sudan. Is there maybe a feeling that the United States resents China's economic involvement in Sudan?
Well, I think that's correct in a sense. The oil in Sudan has been the first instance in modern time where oil has been extracted by non-Western actors, who included China, India, and Malaysia. That, of course, undermines the habitual hegemony of Western companies of the oil industry. But I don't think that at the moment this is a central issue in the relationship between the two countries. The economic prosperity which has been mentioned is also has to be qualified, because I was speaking only 2 days ago in Khartoum to a former minister who is a very senior economic advisor to the government, and he was very worried about the levels of poverty which exist in the country. And he said, I said to the president and others that if I was in charge, I wouldn't be able to sleep with the levels of poverty they are at the country at the moment. Even the salary of the minister is not enough to cover his expenses, his normal expenses of an ordinary middle-class family. But I want to go to another point, I think, which Janet has mentioned. She said the issue of Darfur, which, as we all agree, is key to the relationship between the U.S. and Sudan, cannot be resolved by Sudan alone, because it has not been created by the government alone. I'm sorry to disappoint her. I think it has been created by the government on its own. True, the United States has encouraged during the Nevatia agreement, some senior U.S. official has said to the government, get rid of this problem, quote unquote, because they didn't want it to spoil the party of Bush wanted to hold, celebrating the Nevatia agreements, which he wanted to boast of when he is running for the election in 2004. But I'm afraid the government botched its counterinsurgency policy very badly and created a problem instead of solving the problem of Darfur. Of course, the United States the United States government distance itself from its former friend or ally, potential ally, when the problem got out of hand. It cannot, I mean, it's not possible for a U.S. government at the moment, with the whole international outcry, whether it's wrong or right, it's politically unfeasible to have good relationship with Sudan. There has been agreements in the Oslo conference a couple of years back to give $4.5 billion to the reconstruction in Sudan. This deal is being held
not part of any of that.
until the Darfur issue will be resolved.
Oh, let's give Janet McCalligot a chance to respond. Yes, sir. Sorry to interrupt you. In Washington, D.C., Janet McCalligot, you want to respond?
Absolutely. I was the spokesman for the IGAD in Naivasha during that period, that which you speak of. And what happened was 4 SPLM generals went to Darfur to sort of serve as military advisors. The JEM was created when Hassan el-Tarabi signed a secret accord as a part of the agreement he and John Garang signed in Switzerland several years prior to that, where Garang agreed to hire and to train people to fight the Sudanese government run by Bashir as a proxy fight in Darfur. And that's what started the whole thing. And the former Minister of Federal Affairs, Ali Taj, he was in Germany doing fundraising for the JEM. I do believe that if John Garang had not been killed in that horrible, horrible helicopter accident, what was it, 7-8 days after he became Vice President of Sudan and President of Southern Sudan, that Darfur probably would have been called off, because his people went forward to train the Islamic fighters. And that's why and how the SLA and the JEM have worked together. It was for the destabilization of Khartoum. This problem in Darfur has been funded by the outside. These rebels weren't very wealthy. I mean, the average amount of money that these guys made was probably $30–40 US a month.
All right, I want to go to Salah Khojaly. I'm sorry to interrupt you, miss. I want to go to Salah Khojaly. Okay. I want to talk about the fact that Sudan remains on the US state sponsors of terrorism list. Is it likely to be taken off the list anytime soon? Keeping in mind the fact that it's ironic that Sudan has been criticized for being such an ally in the US-led war on terror.
Yeah, we have to give consideration, as I mentioned before, that all resolution taken by Washington depended on some mistaken reports or exaggerated reports. The same decision makers or advisors, when they discover that such reports actually need to be reconsidered, I believe that at least the economic sanction will be removed. Because I still repeat that the future of energy will play a very strong role in the relation between Sudan and USA.
And will Sudan be taken off that list of state sponsors of terrorism? Are you optimistic?
Very optimistic, really. Very optimistic, because if we take the situation in Iraq, definitely President Bush will try to find some achievement to his party, and Sudan and Darfur will be the case.
Abdul Wahab Al-Afandi, there's only a minute left on the program. If you could quickly signal what you think is the way forward for better relations between these two nations.
As I said, the main obstacle now is Darfur. The relationship between Sudanese security and the U.S. in counterterrorism is quite good, actually, and the U.S. officials themselves accept that there is no reason for Sudan to remain on the list. But the issue of Darfur, regardless, I think the central issue of Darfur is not who started the rebellion. It's how the government dealt with the rebellion. The government has dealt with the rebellion in a way which she unleashed the Janjaweed, and they killed so many civilians and displaced 2 million people. Unless this issue is resolved, that the people are returned to their homes, peace reigns in Darfur.
All right, sir, I'm sorry. I'm going to have to interrupt you. It's just about time to say goodbye to you three. I'm so sorry. This is the worst part of the program for me, because I was enjoying it in Washington, Belgrade and Doha. Thank you very much for joining us. And thank you so much for joining us here on this edition of Inside Story.